The actions of the movie unfold in a house on the outskirts of a small town. Here in solitude, lives a girl named Brynn. In her free time, Brynn works on a model of the city in the living room. But generally Brynn is a seamstress and takes orders from local residents. In the yard of the house, Brynn discovered a circle of withered grass. This is far from the first time. In the afternoon, Brynn went to the city. She tries to be friendly with the locals, but for some reason they avoid her. After delivering the mended clothes to the customer, Brynn stopped by the cemetery. The girl still hasn't come to terms with the loss of her mother, Sarah. When someone arrived at the cemetery, Brynn hurried to leave. But upon seeing the police chief and his wife, she hid. The girl doesn't want them to notice her. At home, she wrote a letter to her friend Maud, who passed away 10 years ago. The police chief and his wife are Maud's parents. The mailman brought Brynn a package, carelessly throwing the box on the ground. But Brynn was still glad to finally receive the package, which contained a new model for her city in the living room. Brynn was in a good mood, so she happily drank wine and cooked dinner. Suddenly the phone rang. It was some angry man, and Brynn simply ignored him. Brynn misses Maud very much and still can't forgive herself. And it's unlikely she ever will. In their childhood, Brynn and Maud were best friends. Brynn has cherished her memory all these years. Before bed she read a book, then turned off the light. Drifting off to sleep, Brynn had no idea that something was approaching her home straight from the sky. Suddenly the lights in the house spontaneously came on, and music began to play. A few seconds later the lights went out. Brynn woke up to unfamiliar sounds and peeked out the window. Apparently someone was near her house. Brynn went to check to see what was wrong when she realized that the electricity wasn't working. The front door was somehow ajar. Suddenly Brynn noticed a creepy creature in her house speaking in an unknown language. That made Brynn cringe. As the creature moved through the house, Brynn tried her best to remain unnoticed. But when the alien humanoid spotted her, the girl rushed away and locked herself in the room, not understanding what was happening. Of course the alien barged into the room. Brynn hid behind the bed, hearing the horrific sounds emitted by the creature. While the humanoid roamed nearby, Brynn crawled under the bed. The humanoid jumped onto the bed, then jumped off. Brynn could see its legs. It was definitely something not from Earth. The humanoid left the house through the window. Terrified, Brynn hurried to close the window and then, holding makeshift weapons, went to look around the house. Apparently the alien was on the roof. Before it entered the house, Brynn rushed to the front door and closed it. At that moment the lights in the house turned on, and all the appliances started going crazy. Brynn turned off the electricity to be able to hear what was happening. When Brynn picked up the phone to call for help, there was an eerie noise. It made her ears hurt. All the doors in the house started opening and closing on their own. The humanoid was back. Brynn hid in the kitchen, observing it from her improvised hiding spot. The alien's attention was drawn to the phone receiver. Brynn tried not to make any noise, but panic made her breathing rapid. The alien approached and found Brynn, who at that moment ran away screaming. However, Brynn stumbled and fell, hitting herself hard. Barely coming to her senses, Brynn began to crawl into another room, but the alien found her again. All the objects in the house began to spontaneously toss. Suddenly some unknown force began to pull Brynn back. Obviously the alien possesses telekinesis. When it tried to control Brynn's mind, she to defend herself ended its life with a broken piece of the bell tower model. Barely holding back panic, Brynn watched as the creature fell lifeless. The question remains, where did it come from and why specifically her house? So Brynn sat until morning. She had numerous abrasions as a reminder of the horrors of the night. The humanoid's body was still here. Summoning courage, Brynn approached it. It was truly an extraterrestrial creature. Brynn covered it with a blanket, then picked up the telephone receiver. But the phone, like all the appliances in the house, was not working. Brynn's car wouldn't start, so she couldn't drive into town. This made her scream in desperation. After calming down a bit, Brynn tidied herself up and set off for town on her bike. Along the way she realized she wasn't the only one who had been attacked by aliens that night. The invasion was massive. Brynn finally made it to the police station, where she ran into Maud's parents. Jay Collins and his wife clearly weren't pleased to see her. Mrs. Collins spat in Brynn's face and silently walked away. Jay didn't say anything either. Brynn left the police station in tears. Deep down she knows she deserved this, but it doesn't make her feel any better. Brynn wanted to ride her bike home, but she had a panic attack. The past still haunts Brynn to this day. In the end she decided to leave town by bus. Brynn felt relieved, but not for long. Suddenly other passengers began to attack her. They were under the control of alien parasites placed in their throats. The bus driver slammed on the brakes, and that saved Brynn. She ran out of the bus, while one of the passengers continued to pursue her. Brynn ran as fast as she could until she broke away from the pursuit. In the distance screams could be heard. The alien invasion was already in full swing. Brynn wanted to seek help at the church, but apparently no one was here. Brynn walked into the cemetery in an attempt to find solace. Beside Maud's grave, Brynn cried. For her as well as for Maud's parents, it was an irreplaceable loss. Suddenly the sky began to be covered by a black cloud, clearly of unnatural origin. Brynn ran again, while the clouds loomed over the city. Most of the local residents are already infected with alien parasites. They stood with their hands reaching towards the sky. Brynn realized she needed to get out of here as soon as possible. Finally she reached her home. The advantage was that it was far from the city and from neighbors. The humanoid's body still lay here. Brynn has no idea what these creatures are and where they came from. But they are nothing like humans. Lightning flashed in the sky, as if heralding the apocalypse. Gathering her courage, Brynn lit candles in the fireplace in the house, heated water on the gas stove and fortified her home as best as she could. Now it was her personal fortress. Suddenly Brynn heard a scraping sound. Of course all the measures she had taken couldn't stop the higher intelligence. Bright light burst through the windows. An anti-gravity beam carried the humanoid's body out of Brynn's house. After that everything went dark, but not for long. When the light came back on, Brynn realized she needed to hide. The aliens invaded her home again. Brynn hoped they wouldn't find her in the basement, but the aliens were scanning all surfaces in their path with that same blue beam. Brynn heard footsteps, and moments later saw the creature searching for her. Hiding, Brynn managed to reach for the scissors. At one point, the alien noticed her and began to move objects with the power of its mind. Brynn was so frightened that she couldn't run. When she grabbed a frame with a picture of herself and Maud, the alien took the frame using its superpower. Brynn ran upstairs, but other alien attacked her. Brynn bit it, managing to break free. A chase ensued. Brynn threw everything in her path at the alien, including pots of boiling water. Suddenly the blue light flashed again, cutting off Brynn's path. The alien approached, saying something in its own language. Brynn, slowly trying not to make any sudden movements, backed away. Brynn locked herself in another room, and the humanoid broke down the door, forcing its way inside. Brynn tried to escape through the window, but the alien grabbed her. A struggle ensued between them, and ultimately Brynn, using a broken mop, was able to take its life. After that, Brynn immediately fled the house through the window, spotting a giant humanoid on the roof. Brynn rushed to escape, but she was stopped by the same bus passenger infected with the parasite. Grabbing Brynn, he dragged her straight to the alien. The outline of a huge flying saucer appeared in the sky. Brynn managed to fight off the passenger, who was lifted by the anti-gravity beam and then released. Brynn ran again, and the alien chased after her. Brynn wanted to go into her house, but the humanoid was already crawling on the roof. Suddenly the creature started emitting horrifying sounds, causing physical pain to Brynn. The alien fell from the roof, but the fall didn't stop it. Brynn got into her car, luring the creature into a trap. Brynn was able to get out of the car easily, while the humanoid got stuck. She then set the fuel tank on fire. As Brynn ran a short distance away, an explosion occurred. The creature was neutralized. Looking at the fire, Brynn smiled through her exhaustion. But her joy didn't last long because the beam from the flying saucer activated again. Brynn rushed into her house, but she was clearly not safe here. Another alien entered Brynn's room. There were many letters here that Brynn had written to Maud over the years. There were also numerous photographs. Brynn attempted to attack the alien from behind, but it threw her back using telekinesis. Brynn was hit hard. She was completely exhausted and could hardly fight anymore. However, despite everything, Brynn managed to get to her feet and run. Suddenly bright red light burst through the window and picked Brynn up, tossing her between the ceiling and the floor. Powerless to do anything, Brynn watched as the humanoid approached. When Brynn's eyes met the alien's, she experienced the biggest shock of her life. The alien implanted the parasite inside Brynn, and at that moment she woke up screaming in her own bed. Could all of this have been just a nightmare? Brynn cried for a long time, unable to calm down. Then it turned into hysterical laughter. It seemed like her life was back to normal, but was it really? Seeing her friend Maud, who in this reality was alive, Brynn couldn't hold back tears of joy. Brynn asked her friend for forgiveness, deep down understanding that it was just an illusion. Having rid herself of the parasite, Brynn found herself in front of the house. Brynn tried to crawl away, but some low-frequency hum began to cause her pain. Within seconds, she watched in horror as a beam from the flying saucer turned the parasite into her own doppelganger. Brynn ran into the forest, pursued by her own copy. When they came face to face, Brynn couldn't move from fear. The clone, holding a sharp object, injured the real Brynn. She in turn took the doppelganger's life. Seeing the last moments of her own life, Brynn cried. After that, we see wounded Brynn walking along a deserted road. Suddenly a giant humanoid appears in her path. Brynn didn't have time to react because an anti-gravity beam sucked her into the flying saucer. Here, a group of alien scientists explored Brynn by infiltrating her mind. At this moment episodes from Brynn's past are revealed, including the reason why the whole town hates her. It turns out that 10 years ago, Brynn took Maud's life during an argument. It was done in a fit of emotion. Brynn would like to change everything, but the past cannot be undone. All these years Brynn lived with a heavy burden on her soul and constantly wrote letters to Maud. It was her only way to ask for forgiveness from the friend. Seeing this in Brynn's subconscious, the alien scientists began to converse with each other about something. In the end they decided to release Brynn. She found herself on the same deserted road and was free from the influence of the alien parasite. Seeing the multicolored lights of flying saucers in the sky, Brynn laughed hysterically. Finally overcoming her mental trauma, Brynn was able to return to a normal life. The past no longer weighed on her. Most of the townspeople are still under the influence of the parasites, but now they all treat Brynn kindly. The girl enjoyed her new perfect life, although she realized it was something illusory. In the final scene, we see flying saucers in the sky. But could it be that there was actually no alien invasion? Perhaps all of this was just Brynn's fantasy, placed in a psychiatric institution. The aliens are medical personnel, and the townspeople are patients. But of course these are just our guesses. Write in the comments what you think about this.